auditor says throwing millions of dollars at homelessness in this city is not going to work if Denver doesn't come up with a better strategy. The audit out today says the city's approach to handling the homelessness crisis lacks coordination and staffing. Mayor Michael Hancock is promising improvements while he's defending what his administration has been doing, like the homeless sweeps, which in our debate last night he said are not sweeps. He likes to call them cleanups. His challengers seemed unimpressed.
We've got these sweeps, and I don't care what someone else tries to call them, because you're not just cleaning the sidewalks and putting people back, you're sweeping them off the street. And we've got a homeless ban. The city's been sued because of these policies, and we had to settle the lawsuit because they're of questionable constitutionality.
We do move in, particularly when it's a public health and safety issue with regards to the homeless as well as the general public. There's no higher responsibility as mayor that I have than to protect every resident of Denver against public threats to their public health and public safety.
Our Denver's Road Home used to be run by a buddy of Michael Hancock from the Urban League days, and he ran that program into the ground. But guess what? He got essentially promoted sideways to the sheriff's department as making six figures, and people still can't figure out what he does.
There's different phases of homelessness, different types of homeless people, some chronically homeless who need mental health support, who have no families, and they need housing with supportive wraparound services with, in some cases, permanent care. But they deserve to be invested in as much as people who have fallen onto the street because of hard times.
You heard from, in order there, challenger Penfield Tate, Mayor Hancock, then challengers Lisa Calderon and Jamie Gillis. Today's audit says that Denver is expecting to spend $51 million on homelessness initiatives next year, or this year rather. That's almost $15,000 for every person in the city who is experiencing homelessness. On this issue of money versus results, Mayor Hancock points to Seattle as a city that is spending a lot more and not solving its persistent issue. 500,000 kids in Colorado went back to school today after yesterday's unprecedented security scare. We know that parents wrestled with what to say about that perceived threat from a Columbine-obsessed woman who came in from out of state and bought a gun. Other parents pointed out to us that her apparent suicide raised other questions about what to say to kids about that situation. Teachers knew what to say. They knew what to do. From Denver to Dougco to Boulder's Foothill Elementary, we saw students welcomed back with positive messages and encouraged to add their own for their classmates. That, coupled with age-appropriate information, woven together with understanding about the anxiety brought on by the sudden shutdown of 1,000 school buildings on short notice.
I think if we can sort of help them name it and then replace it, right? And what is better to replace it than with message of positivity and kindness?
Students came back to school to find extra security for both body and mind. Many districts had an increased law enforcement presence, as well as counselors right there on standby. The woman who prompted the panic came to Colorado this week from Florida. She purchased that shotgun here. Now, Florida has a red flag gun control law that's similar to the one that was just passed here.
The shotgun purchase at Colorado Gun Broker in Jefferson County was legal, according to the ATF. Some have pointed to federal law that gun sellers must follow the gun laws in an out-of-state buyer's home state as well, and Florida law prohibits gun sales to people under 21. But the ATF tells 9 News that the way the Florida law is written, it only applies when the buyer is physically in Florida. That state, like Colorado, also has a red flag law. The state legislator who wrote Colorado's version says that in both states, an active red flag order from a judge to seize somebody's guns would also show up immediately in a background check. When the gun shop in Jefferson County ran that background check, it appears there was no such active red flag order against the woman out of Florida. If a red flag order has expired in Florida or in Colorado next year when that law takes effect, well, then it's scrubbed from the national background check system and would not stop a gun sale.
Denver voters, do not wait for your blue book to come in the mail before you vote, because it is not coming. You have to download it from the city's election office website this year. Next viewers helpfully suggested on Facebook that this is a communist plot or a conspiracy to keep voters in the dark. It is either that or it's an effort to save money or paper. You can call 311 to request that you get sent a paper booklet, or you can find one at your library. Our voter guide is on 9news.com. Also, not a communist plot. Denver voters will decide if the city should become the first in America to decriminalize so-called magic mushrooms. That's Initiative 301 on your ballot. We've talked quite a bit about Initiative 300, a repeal of the city's camping ban, which mainly impacts people who are homeless. But perhaps you'd like a refresher before you cast your vote. Here's Politics Guy Marshall Zellinger.
Should the homeless in Denver be allowed to sleep in public places without fear of being swept away? A yes vote on Initiated Ordinance 300 would let people sleep in public spaces, like parks and sidewalks, as long as they're not blocking the sidewalk. They could also sleep in a vehicle on public property, like along a neighborhood street. This would not allow anyone to legally sleep or camp out on private property, like your front yard. A no vote keeps Denver's camping ban in effect, where police and public works could continue homeless camp sweeps. This is the paragraph you'll see on your ballot. This, however, is the actual text of the ordinance, which does not appear on your ballot. It includes this paragraph that basically says Denver cannot enforce policies that limit what 300 allows. So would park curfews be enforceable? Could they be asked to leave for a permitted event like a wedding or a 5K race? Issues like that might have to be decided by a judge. The other initiated ordinance on Denver ballots is 301. That would decriminalize psilocybin mushrooms. But for the rest of the story, we'll just call them magic mushrooms. The Drug Enforcement Administration labels magic mushrooms a Schedule I drug. Other Schedule I drugs include heroin and marijuana. A yes vote makes possession of magic mushrooms by someone 21 or older the lowest priority for Denver police. It does not legalize magic mushrooms. It would still be illegal to sell or produce them. A yes vote just tells Denver police to look the other way when it comes to possession. Between 2016 and 2018, DPD made 158 arrests for possession of magic mushrooms. A no vote on 301 keeps Denver police priorities no different than today.
Ballots were mailed out on Monday, so if you don't see yours pretty soon, you can't call 311 to check. Voting centers for in-person voting open on April 29th. The last day to vote in person or have that ballot returned to elections is May 7th. Ask some parents and students in Denver, and they will tell you there is something called the school to jail pipeline, flagging kids for punishment as opposed to help. So they want more counselors and fewer law enforcement officers inside schools. Padres and Jóvenes Unidos have been in this fight for years, and nowadays they are taking it to Denver's public school superintendent. They did so after speaking with our Sonia Gutierrez.
When you're meeting with La Mera Mera, aka the boss, there's lots of preparing to do.
We're excited for the opportunity to really start this work anew with a new superintendent.
Excited not because it's going to be fun, but because they feel like they get to hold the district accountable.
Students are feeling increasingly criminalized and marginalized in their schools.
Advocate group Padres y Jóvenes Unidos says a part of that is happening through suspensions and expulsions. Denver Public School District agrees there is work to be done, but points us to the numbers. 10 years ago, the district had more than 10,000 suspensions and 200 expulsions a year. That's dropped to 4,000 suspensions and under 50 expulsions every year.
You'll see that there are lots and lots of zeros on this expulsion grid, but then we go into community and we talk to parents, and they do talk about how their students have been, asked to leave or put on these contracts that make it impossible for them to attend school, and then are just sort of like transferred out of that school or pushed out of that school rather than a formalized expulsion.
Padres is asking the district to change their practices.
And instead put that money into more counselors, more psychologists.
They have a list of demands. They want a district-wide audit on discipline data, and they also want to get rid of school officers.
We want them to end the SRO program and get all police officers out of our school.
And replace them with a full-time restorative justice coordinator.
Yeah, so that would be someone who oversees practices that support students, that offer solutions that are based on like community healing and how do you repair damage that you've done rather than just expelling or suspending a student.
So considering what happened this week with the widespread closures because of threats, we asked Padres what suggestions they had for student safety if they want to get rid of school resource officers altogether. So they believe that should be the work of outside police departments. Now, the district says that is something that requires a conversation that hasn't happened yet, so they can't respond to that request right now. However, DPS does say that it has been working. They have been working to add training and practices to address bias and support for these students.
You can understand where people are coming from, Sonia, because, I mean, you've obviously got the idea of the security of schools. Somebody has to handle the security of schools, but you also don't want a situation where basically frustrated teachers and administrators are handing kids over to the legal system. Like, here, now you take them.
Exactly. That's the frustration. It's like, we understand that there's security, there needs to be security at school, but the rest of the year when there's no threats, what are these SROs doing? Well, they think it's that pipeline from school to jail.
Yeah. All right. Sonia Gutierrez, thank you very much.
Yeah.
20 years since the shooting at Columbine, there are images we rarely show at the request of victims' families and survivors. This survivor wants you to see his photo so you will feel what he feels.
Ultimately, that being a sense of hope.
Colorado School of Mines had a math problem: how to double the number of women studying computer science.
10 years ago, we were at about 10 to 11% women, and today we're almost 21% women.
How they solve that problem, next.
After a cloudy, cool, and windy start to the day, we had afternoon sunshine that allowed for temperatures to warm into the 60s today. It felt great, and now finally the wind is starting to die down a little bit as low pressure begins to move away from Colorado. As that gradient begins to weaken and high pressure sets up, the storm track goes north, and that means the beginning of a warming trend that'll see us in the mid-70s both Friday and Saturday. Severe weather threat growing in the Gulf Coast region, where we're tracking the threat for tornadoes and large hail tonight and potential travel delays tomorrow. All that wicked weather is off to the east. We're looking at a beautiful Friday here in Colorado. Statewide sunshine with mild temperatures, and not bad tonight. Partly cloudy, close to 40. That's where we start tomorrow morning. Our high at 74. You love that? Check out Saturday, almost 80. But changes Saturday night with the arrival of a cold front. Scattered showers and cooler weather for Easter Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. But then temperatures rebounding back to the 60s and 70s. I don't know, Kyle, about you, but I can see the weekend from here.
I don't know about me either. Thank you, Kathy. 20 years ago Saturday, one of the most transformative events in this state's history unfolded live on television. 20 years later, many in our state still wonder about the true impact of the Columbine shootings. Few feel it as acutely as Patrick Ireland.
Hey, buddy. What up, man? Hey, you found it.
We found it.
You found it okay? Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Really cool that we're still friends and close together and still hang out.
What's up, brother?
How goes it?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It just seems like just a blur of how quick it's gone by, and like I was 17 at the time. The way that I think back about it is honestly a sense of pride and hope, just knowing that everything that we went through and what we survived, and that picture or that video or that view, essentially of me, student fighting for their life, trying to get out, and ultimately that being a sense of hope and hopefully what could be conveyed as, a beacon of light and strength and courage. I mean, I spent 7 months at a rehab hospital relearning how to read and write and walk and talk. And yeah, we're just hanging out watching the Final Four. The people who were coming over tonight they were all guys that stood up in our wedding. There was no playbook written for how should a community respond from this, and so it was just people just like opened up their hearts and their homes, and able to create that sense of belonging and really bonded the community together. Because of what we went through here, so many of my strong bonds and relationships were formed from everything we went through at Columbine. That's probably the biggest concern that I have, is that I don't want her to feel fearful of going to school, because we had such a great experience growing up in this community in elementary school through high school. We're not going to let, the events of that day define us, and that's not going to be, negative impact for the rest of our life.
Saturday marks 20 years since the Columbine shooting. We will be taking time to remember and honor Columbine victims, survivors, and their friends and family tomorrow night. Our special coverage begins at 7 p.m. on 9 News. You can see that special coverage on the 9 News YouTube page as well, and on our free 9 News streaming apps that are on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We'll be right back. Women now earn the majority of undergrad degrees in America, but obviously they're underrepresented in various fields like computer science. So field by field, there are groups and people working to change that. Take the National Center for Women in Information Technology. They're focused on getting women into computer science. They think that Colorado School of Mines deserves to be known nationally for their efforts. Here's our Byron Reed.
Learning how to code is intriguing for Megan Knitsky.
And it's super interesting just to know how to do.
It's also a step to earning her degree.
Since I am a physics major, it's like computers are a huge part of physics and of just engineering and science as a whole.
All right, let's get to it to lab day. Thank you.
Knitsky is a sophomore at Colorado School of Mines, where over the past few years, they've been trying to make a change.
10 years ago versus today, we have about a third more students than what we did.
Dr. Tracy Camp is the head of the school's computer science department and wanted to create more opportunities to recruit and retain more female students.
Diversity has been a focus of my career since way back when I started. So trying to improve the climate for women in computing.
Are these two like different measurements?
An improvement she's seen over the past decade through initiatives like female-led outreach programs and peer mentorships.
We were at about 10 to 11% women, and today we're almost 21% women.
It's really cool to see, even just in the past couple semesters, see the numbers increase for women.
Giving more students like Megan a chance to participate in computing and help set a path for others to follow.
I'm a part of the generation of women that is coming in and being like, no, we can do this too, and we can do it just as well, if not better.
For next,
so we still have some work to do, but we're on the right trend.
I'm Byron Reed.
Colorado School of Mines received an award of $100,000 that they're going to use to try and recruit and retain even more female students. We will have children passing judgment on this program next. Finished with your feedback. Sarah Harmony Powell writes in to say, my kids are torn. One is totally tuned into your show. The other is just riled by your sarcasm. Sarah, I know you're not allowed to pick a favorite between the two, but I could if I had to. Laura says, next is inspiring and informative. Hope we add more shows like it. I hope so too. Maybe there are more shows like this. I don't know. Joel says, your show is one of 2 newscasts I still watch. No hysteria, just thoughtful analysis. Maybe Joel's found the other one. I don't know. We'll see you next time.